4 years ago, Kaepernick knelt, all in the favor of racial injustice and police brutality. 4 years later, you have a policeman kneeling on George Floyd's neck, and consequently, the violent killed him. In terms of 4 years ago, and we look at this in terms of change from an academic standpoint, in an effort to be able to make systemic change, this takes multiple people coming together. It also happens over long term, but it also is with action. So do want to address the NFL coming forward. This is for everybody. The NFL coming forward saying that, yes, we were wrong. The quote, "We, the NFL, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players and encouraging all to speak out and protest peacefully." Well, it's kind of 4 years too late. I'm glad they're saying it now. However, there's also now a player video coming out with players joining in solidarity to say it's a little bit too late. You actually never mentioned Kaepernick. And so again, how authentic is the NFL? But really the question is, what does the NFL need to do now to be able to demonstrate authenticity and actual change? And this is open to anyone in our group.
Amanda, I might start just by saying, I think, it's interesting that Roger Goodell's contract runs through 2023, and there is already some insinuation and talk about a potential replacement. And I think, as to your point, Laurel, if we want to hear about serious change, I don't know how much we can change incumbents in the way that they've always acted. And there, even Dr. Forrester, you mentioned how that first impression is usually in many ways the most accurate one. In many ways, there's a very interesting article right now, I believe it's on ESPN, that talks about the 3 days that changed the NFL, which began with Drew Brees' statement. And as misinformed and just tone deaf that Brees' statement was, it was the catalyst for change. It was so clearly, whereas in the past, that type of statement, the NFL stands for patriotism. Now it just seems antiquated and outdated, and rightfully so. So this starts a change now where, and not to kind of jump the shark on the Brendan Minter discussion point, but here you had somebody as the social media creative director who said, enough. We have to do something about this. And he gave the players a voice through this incredibly powerful and impactful statement, video, I should say, that in turn garnered such a meaningful reaction that Goodell himself felt the need to put forth a statement. So a seminal moment indeed, a lot of changes occurring. And my hope is in a few years from now that we can really have someone come in and take over the NFL who could actually institute some meaningful change.
I think to follow with that, I've had this conversation quite a bit with colleagues within sports and stuff, and it is systemic, and there's a lot of things that has to happen. It's not popular because usually we know, according to racial critical race theory, the idea that like those who are benefit are maybe more reluctant, but you have to change the system. You have to educate it. You have to shift the culture. And part of that is you have to start having leadership that is representative of those who are affected. So you start looking at like the owners, you start looking at GMs, you start looking at coaches and so forth. Does that reflect the body of the participants? I mean, like it's 70+% of athletes who play in the NFL that are Black. And that's not just within the NFL, that's across sports. I see it even here in Canada. If I look at our national team, our national sports organization and how that's structured. It's a very white sport organization, yet still Canada is supposed to be the most multicultural country or one of, and certainly Toronto, the most multicultural city, but our sports at the decision-making level does not reflect that. So part of that decision, but part of that is having that diversity, and it shouldn't be confused with other elements of diversity. I really hate the idea when we say diversity, equality, and inclusion, we lump everything together and say, yeah, we're checking the box. But the issue with that is each issue, Indigenous, LGBTQ, gender, Blacks, whatever, all are different, and they all have their needs need to be individually understood and addressed. And it's not to say that one is more disadvantages on the other. It's understanding each one of them. And then you add on this other layer called intersectionality, when you add someone who is of one aspect that's affected with another aspect, say, I don't know, like if I say myself, a Black female, this is intersectionality. So certainly when we talk about gender, the things that applies to a white female is not the same thing that's going to apply to someone who's a Black female. So it's understanding that. So like it's like a full like understanding as to what does our leadership roles look like and who do we need to have in there. And then the last thing I'd say, what would be very pivotal is say the first game, if you had Roger Goodell, you had all the owners and the athletes all take a knee when that anthem was played, that would be powerful.